This news has kind of rolled over in the last 48 hours since it came to light the other night down at the Cattery, with Geelong reportedly trying to woo political figures to get a little bit more into the coffers down there. The Cats have flagged their ideal situation of building a new training hub outside the walls of GMHBA Stadium. Now, that would be obviously to cater for the Cats, the AFLW, the VFL as well. The question is, do the Cats, after virtually rebuilding GMHBA Stadium with significant support from the state and federal government, is Geelong a sporting organisation that deserves more funding from the state government when you hear so many local teams, I saw it on the news during the week, local teams don't even have facilities for a female team. You've got women changing in front of a urinal because there's nowhere for girls to get changed, yet the Cats want more money for a new training hub.
It's going to be state government. They don't care what we think.
It depends what sort
and
of
the election's in November. So what are they thinking?
It normally
They're
depends.
wooing both Jacinta and Jess Wilson.
Yeah.
It normally depends, these sort of things, on what sort of community, I guess, facilities that they do include in these places.
I think the right thing to do would be for, if you were the opposition leader, Jess Wilson, to come out and say, we're not going to give you the money because we are a state in record debt and it needs to go elsewhere. And that would probably win you more votes than giving the money to
It's always a marginal seat down there, isn't it, Laura? Do you know a bit more about that?
It is federally.
Federally, yeah.
Federally it is, right.
That would win you more votes than giving money to Geelong. I mean, it's not... AFL clubs have money. It's not AFL clubs and venues.
And Geelong's got money.
And Geelong's got money.
But...
Yes, we need to maintain those venues to a professional standard for our professional competition, but I agree with you, Shane. It's grassroots that don't have that type of investment where you'd like to see better facilities. So I don't think they deserve more cash from the government.
I think they've had a good run at it.
They have.
You know, so where does it finish and where does it... And I think, knowing what's coming up, I'm with you, Laura. The political background of it is that we are in debt to our up to our necks. It's going to be a generational thing. I think we have to find out bigger and better things. We need something to fix crime. We need something to fix the hospitals. We need something to fix the AMBOs. We need all those sort of things are much more important than a facility to train. I think they've got pretty good facilities down there as it is.
And I think too, I mean, you talk about local footy, you talk about all sporting groups right across the state. And I don't begrudge some money from governments being used for sport and health and recreation. That is important.
Well, that's a health thing, yeah.
But out of that, does the Geelong Football Club deserve it? I would suggest not. I would suggest that Geelong's facilities, even compared to a number of AFL clubs at the moment, are far and above what other clubs.
They're really good. We were in there Friday
absolutely.
night down in the change rooms. I mean, they're fantastic
Correct.
facilities. They're brand new. I don't see why they would need
and I'm
more
sorry,
facilities.
GMHBA isn't the MCG or Marvel Stadium. I mean, Taylor Swift's not going down to GMHBA Stadium.
Where
to,
are they proposing to build it on the site there?
Right alongside.
Near the netball courts there.
Yeah, around the cricket ground as well.
Yeah. Well, they're going to try and sell it as part of the community to be able to use it, but when and how and
that's
how
how
much.
they get the funding.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only way they get the funding.
Yeah.
But half of those normally lies anyway.
Keen to hear from people down Geelong way. I mean, if it's something that affects your vote later in the year, I don't want to get too political, but Geelong supporters, do you want to see more money going in to the football club, or should there be greater priorities when it comes to sport and recreation? As I said, GMHBA is a wonderful facility. I think it's had its fair share of government funding over the years. 133 693. Any other footy issues you want to raise as well? We were talking about the coaching situation at Essendon before. Hi, Val.
Hi there, guys. Go Tigers, by the way. I'm just calling about...
Is that Valley Crow?
It is, Richo.
I recognised your voice. How are you?
Oh, you did. You're a star. I'm very well, thank you, buddy. How's the family?
We're good, thank you. Well, I'll give you a bell later. We'll have a private chat.
You don't want to do it now? You want to do it now, Matthew?
No, that's,
what are you doing for the rest of the day?
No, that's the great Neville Crow's
wife there. Yeah. Good to hear you, Val. Just tell us, what are you doing for the rest of the day? Can Richo come over for tea, or what's happening?
Absolutely. As long as he brings his kids and his wife and his mum. Darling Di.
And a bottle of DeBortley.
Exactly. No, the reason why I'm calling is if Essendon want to be successful, as much as I think that James Hird was a brilliant footballer, but he negated that totally when he became coach and just left his players out to dry after that shocking time, and then took on $1 million afterwards. He doesn't gain my respect, and I'm sure the players that have been involved in that whole situation would be right behind me in saying he doesn't deserve coaching in the future. He let his boys down. He let them out to dry. And I'm afraid I feel sorry for the whole situation, but Essendon deserves a better coach.
All right.
Val, appreciate it. No doubt Richo will debate it further with you at dinner and just make sure the Reds are ready to go. Val, appreciate the call. G'day, Ian.
G'day, guys. Thanks for your program. Look, the discussion around funding for extra facilities at Geelong should not even be on the table during this period. It's absolutely appalling from my perspective. There are other, as I think Tony said it, there are other important issues in the community that need to be addressed, e.g. crime. It's certainly a very sensitive topic at the moment around crime. So reinvest your money elsewhere, and I think if the government intends to go down that track, see you later.
Yep, I think
it's not Geelong. Like Geelong, you have to do it. You got to go to the well if you can, and if it happens, it happens. So it's not Geelong's fault. But I'm just saying, as a state government, I think a lot of people are just of the public would be thinking, not at this time, not now.
Good on you, Ian. Appreciate it. Hi, Amon.
Yes, g'day, guys. I just want to start by saying the AFL does a great job delivering footy right across this nation. But before the AFL, of course, we had the VFL. And in that time, Tasmania had a thriving state competition. Sandy Bay Oval every Saturday afternoon, the Burnie Hawks up at the Emu Bay, Devonport Lonnie, wherever. Now, the creation of the AFL and live TV broadcast killed that Tasmanian competition. I think that's very sad for the young men and now women, of course, of Tasmania. But look, Jeff Kennett got it up and going. He got the Hawks moving over to those games in Launceston. My concern is the AFL, their keen eagerness to cut that Hawthorn experience off in Tasmania. Can't we keep it going, maybe for like 5 years, 10 years, see how it goes with the Tassie team? There's a lot of people in the northwest Tasmania. If you live at Smithton or Rocky Cape or somewhere and you want to head down to watch a footy match, you can get to Launceston. We've got to keep playing in Launceston. But I just feel we should give the Hawks and Tasmania, that connection, just a little bit more life. Rich, I'd be interested in your views.
Yeah, I get your point about people on the far northwest coast like Smithton. It is a long way to go down to Hobart. The Devils will play some home games in Launceston, I believe. I think 2 is a minimum, maybe more. And obviously early days, if the stadium isn't finished, they'll play a lot more there. So there will be AFL footy in the north. I think I'm with the Devils on this one, that they want the clean state. I think Hawthorn did have to move on once the Devils come in. So I'm probably with them on that one. I understand your point, though, about it being a long way from the far northwest, and hopefully they get more than 2 games in Lonnie.
Good on you, Amon. Hi, Michael.
Hi, guys. As a Geelong resident, we shouldn't be funding any Geelong stadium because the AFL do not pay tax, so they've got a lot of money.
And look, the AFL is obviously trying to prop up 18 clubs across the competition, but I think Geelong is also very well funded with the amount of sponsorship that they're getting.
Get the Cotton On to build it? Cotton On Stadium.
Cotton On Stadium, Costa Park.
Cotton On training facility.
Alphabet Park.
Look, there is no shortage of big companies down in Geelong that are willing to back in the Geelong Football Club. I think given the amount of government funding that has gone into the Cardinia Park precinct, gone into building that stadium, and I had nothing against that because it was run down. Cardinia Park needed
an overhaul.
And it's great for the community. But to now say, we want a training facility, sorry, that to me is a bridge too far.
You've got to share the love. And I mean, the Western Bulldogs, they've benefited. They've had a revamp. You've got the Hawks at Dingley. They had some money chucked in for there. So as long as you're sharing it around. But yeah, at the moment, read the room. That's not where people want your money to go, and maybe we need to get the debt down before we start spending on facilities that have already had some coin.
Well, it was reported during the week that Essendon President Andrew Welsh already favours one candidate to take over the senior coaching reins at Essendon. That is interim coach Dean Solomon. Now, Solomon has now been at the helm of the Bombers for 3 weeks, still yet to notch up a win. But what does it say if the president already has one candidate in mind when the applicants are either A, yet to put their names forward, and B, yet to be interviewed? It seems as though the Bombers are a little bit behind the pace at the moment. You've got to remember both Tasmania and Carlton are also looking for a senior coach for next season. Of course, Tasmania coming into the comp in 2028. But Shorey, Laura, Richo, it concerns me that Essendon is yet to form a panel, yet to get its criteria in order, really yet to reach out to anyone, including Ken Hinkley and John Longmire, who I would have thought would have been amongst the first calls someone would have made.
Oh, absolutely. You're sounding those guys out, particularly for me, John Longmire. I feel like he's the best candidate out there. Premiership coach, got the Swans to a lot of grand finals. Essendon simply has to have a thorough process here, like Tassie are doing and like Carlton. I can't understand why they wouldn't do that, appoint a panel and get everyone to apply, and then you sort out whoever the best candidate is. And if that's Dean Solomon, then it's Dean Solomon. But you must do a proper process, Shorey. Surely.
No, I agree totally. The one thing about it, it is a bit of hearsay at the moment because we haven't had any official from the president and he hasn't come out. Matter of fact, I'm quite surprised he hasn't come out and maybe said this wasn't the case. But anyway, that's up to him. I agree totally. If this was to happen, got to remember Dean Solomon, and this isn't against Dean as a person. We know
he's had good candidate.
He's had a good apprenticeship. The thing about it is, though, he came onto the board at Essendon, and then once they looked like something was happening with Brad Scott, he then went into the football department, which I thought was unbelievable that you'd have someone from the board go into the football department. That's another political sort of thing you see. And now if that's true, what we've heard, that he's the main candidate and they haven't had any process at all, you just wonder what the hell is going on.
Well, not all clubs are going to make their process public. Carlton sent out an email to everyone saying this is who is on our coaching panel. Mm-hmm. Do we expect that from all clubs now when they recruit senior coaches?
I think so. I think you've got to have a panel and you then interview all the candidates and find the best one. That's just what you have to do.
But do you expect that we're told about that? Because there's a difference between going down that road and doing it, and I agree there should be a process. And then
I think you've got to tell your Essendon supporters.
And you don't think that would get out anyway?
Well, it probably would.
If they've got a panel behind the scenes.
It probably would, but that's what's interesting is that it's been a number of weeks now, as you mentioned, and we don't have any information from them even about a panel that they may be forming to look at the coach. Instead, we have pictures of a meeting before Neil Danaher's funeral between James Hird and a couple of the old-time power brokers there. So they're obviously approaching it differently. I think the problem for Andrew Welsh is the relationship, the personal relationship he's got with Dean Solomon. And even if he is the best candidate, it's always an issue when you've got a good personal relationship with somebody and you're trying to make what is meant to be an impartial appointment. So
the president should not have a favoured candidate at this
shouldn't have a favoured candidate, but I'm just saying, you know, the relationship between them.
Laura, do you think that's right that this is Andrew Welsh's favoured candidate in Dean Solomon?
We don't know.
It's as you said, it's a bit of hearsay and innuendo.
But would you? Well, he might. No, I'm probably wrong. He doesn't have to come out and say that is wrong.
I don't think he would. I don't think he would at the moment.
But if he's thinking about having a panel and they're trying to, if they think about having it and they think it's going to stay secret and you don't want to let anybody know who it is, that won't happen. Because it will become, public
133 Essendon fans, keen to hear from you. Are you happy with the transparency of the process to appoint the next coach of the Essendon Football Club, whether it's Solomon, whether it's Hird, whether it's the experience of John Longmire or Ken Hinkley? 133 693. Keen to hear from you, your view. This is the coach of the Essendon Football Club, 2027 and beyond.
I think one thing that you brought up yesterday, which I thought was good, was that if you wanted an Essendon person to do this, and he's the best candidate, whatever, who would have the greater clout of getting Essendon supporters behind it? Would it be James Hird or would it be Dean Solomon? And to me, James Hird by a mile.
But no one's going to beat James Hird in that department, I think.
No, well,
but
that's
the wrong reason to give him the job.
No, that we're not saying that. We're just saying who would have the biggest clout as an Essendon.
If you want someone to sell memberships and sponsorship and be this marketing driver and sell the football
face
club,
of everything,
James Hird gets it.
No,
There's no
but that's not why you appoint a coach.
100%, Matthew.
But we're just bringing up.
So if it is about marketing, James Hird gets it. There's no other contender. If it is about moving this club forward and bringing success to the Essendon Football Club, which it has lacked for the better part of 2 decades, then I don't think James Hird is the man. I think John Longmire or Ken Hinkley is the man. That's my view. But I worry for Essendon that they haven't outlined A, their process, and B, that they are a long way behind both Tasmania and Carlton, thus giving those 2 clubs the opportunity to get the best candidates first.
You need to make someone want to come to your football club, and Essendon is a different challenge to Carlton and to Tasmania. Essendon needs somebody who is not prepared to who's prepared to get their hands dirty, because it's a big job in there. And I think the problem with Dean Solomon coming in is that I know he hasn't been there for very long, but he's coming from inside the system. And I think it's always an issue when you haven't been doing well to appoint someone who has been part of that system that hasn't been doing well.
He's only been there recently, though. It's not like he's been an assistant coach there for 3 or 4 years.
But
but
the
he's been on the board.
Yeah, but not that long. He hadn't been on the board long.
Yeah, but I just don't see how you could do that. You can move a bloke onto the board and say, come and help the club, and the next minute you're saying, no, we don't need you on the board now, we'll throw you into the football.
But
there's got to be some reason because
that only happened because...
Not because they were set... No,
that only happened because Daniel Jan Syracuse went to Hawthorn late.
Right,
that's the only reason, though.
I still reckon it's a real an argument you'd have about, does it suit? It doesn't go down well with me.
Could you even put Dean Solomon in as the senior coach? Again, he's 0-3 from his 3 matches so far. He got the rest of the season. If he's only to get maybe 1 win in the rest of the year, could you instill him as senior coach? Because already it's not kind of breeding the success that Essendon fans want. Already they're looking at it through a negative lens.
Only if, after an exhaustive process, he was chosen by the panel as the one.
Yep.
And he's also obviously close with James Hird. So that's the other interesting factor here. Does Hird come in and Dean Solomon stays anyway as his assistant? They get on. But it wouldn't be the other way around because James Hird won't settle for being an assistant coach.
133 693. Keen for you to jump on the lines. Before we get to the break, g'day, Michael.
If Essendon want to win a premiership, they have to rule out James Hird because, unfortunately, he is a failed coach. He's got a past record of failure.
I think
he got them to finals.
He was going at 40,
under 50%.
He's under 45 or something, isn't it? Percent win-loss ratio.
It seemed as though 4 weeks ago, Ben King was on the precipice of being re-signed at the Gold Coast Suns. Now it seems as though the Hawks are about to swoop in. And then you have Zach Butters, who is very close with the Western Bulldogs. It's reported that Luke Beveridge has reached out personally to Zach, but there are other teams still lurking as well. One of those being Collingwood. Ben King, to mind, seems the concerning one for the Gold Coast Suns because lose him and Jed Walter is also in the market. That changes the whole complexity of that Suns team.
Yeah, Xander Maguire on Channel 7 Friday night, he did report that he thought he was going to potentially sign another 2-year deal.
King?
Yeah, with the Gold Coast Suns. And if he didn't, that Hawthorn were the ones in play there. But I think he was leaning more towards him staying for 2 more years. He does want to come back to Melbourne. That he sees his future in Melbourne to live here eventually. So, I think it's always going to be a fight when he comes out of contract for the Suns to hold him. But, yeah, if they lose him, then Walter would, they'd shift their focus heavily to keeping Walter for sure.
Could Collingwood get both Ben King and Zach Butters?
No. Probably not, but they're going to have salary cap. They're going to have some space.
Collingwood?
I can't believe they're doing that.
You don't want Lachie Neale?
No, not a two. I would, if you had the choice of trying to get Butters, and sell the world to get him above Lachie Neale, you do it. Lachie Neale's 34 and been a great player, but come on, I think Zach Butters is a better player than him. I think that he hurts you on the. Yeah,
more expensive.
I reckon he hurts him on the. Yeah, but. Collingwood's going to have heaps of money in salary cap because I reckon there's going to be 4 senior players. Maybe if they don't go this year, they'll be gone and they'll be on lower wages next year. So they could have $3.5 million in salary cap space to use. And that, how much are you going to pay Butters? $2 million a year, if that's what everybody's saying. I'm amazed that Collingwood aren't involved in one of them, at least one of them.
Richmond are having a crack at Butters.
Oh, they're all,
well.
Look, everybody's having a crack, aren't they? So you don't know which way.
It's just going to come down to what Butters wants. Does he want to be into a team that's contending, potentially straight away, or is he willing to go to a club that, like Richmond, might be 3 or 4 years away from playing, top-end footy again? So that's going to come down to money or whether he wants to contend. That's what Zach Butters is weighing.
Well, they reckon that the Western Bulldogs, through the coach, have been into him for 2 years, and I don't agree with this Western Suburbs thing. He's a Western Suburbs boy. Who cares where you come from? All it's going to be is about opportunity, finals chances in the next, I reckon, 3 to 4 years, and money. They're the three things you've got to weigh up and how comfortable you are.
Zach Butters is certainly the biggest talking point. And you mentioned Richmond. The fact that they were looking to potentially front-end a deal for Zach Butters, $18 million a year, potentially $4 million in the first year. Do you think he's what the Tigers need, Matty?
They need a midfielder that can be inside like Butters and go outside. They haven't got a lot of pace in their midfield. They've got Taranto, Prestia and Hopper. They're all a bit the same as far as pace goes. They've got some young players, clearly, but I haven't got an experienced player with pace in the midfield. I think he's exactly the type of player they need. And I'd be happy if they were to get him for sure. I think they need him, but it's just what Butters wants. Does he want more coin, which I think he'll get at Richmond? Or does he want to go to the Dogs who, at the moment are not contending for a flag, I don't think, but they're in the mix.
That'd be 1/5 of the salary cap to one player in the first year.
Yeah, I think that's too much.
But you have to pay X amount, and Richmond aren't going to pay these young kids.
They're going to pay 95%. What is it, 95%?
And they're not going to pay all these young kids for 2 or 3 years, because we don't know if they're any good yet, let's be honest. So they've got to pay someone. You've got to pay 95%. So if you front end it and then he gets less at the end, I don't mind that.
One that I wanted to throw at you, it's been established that Gather Round will be staying in South Australia for the foreseeable future. Clearly, Peter Malinowskis wanted more of a footy festival feel. They're going to have a pageant through Adelaide now with players doing a parade on, I think it's the Friday or the Saturday, where they're going to be paraded through the streets of Adelaide.
I think they're using the word parade because the word pageant
is about female.
I thought they were using pageant because
it's Donald Trump running it, is he?
That's like the Christmas
Miss
pageant
America.
the beauty pageant.
You get the sashes and they all get a sash across.
Didn't Donald Trump own the Miss America?
But the other thing that apparently Adelaide wants is the grand final rematch to be staged on the Saturday night of Gather Round. So if you have the two grand finalists play off for the first time in Adelaide, should that be taken as part of Gather Round, or would you?
I don't mind it.
Should the I just reckon there should be a bit more symbolism around the grand.
Well,
final
if it's big, keep making it bigger.
Yeah.
To me, I got where are you going to place it anyway?
How do you make it bigger if it's behind a paywall?
Well, if you know you've got the grand finalists playing, that makes it bigger straight away on that weekend if they get it.
Isn't it big enough already, Gather Round? Why don't you isolate that to another weekend somewhere?
Where more people can watch it, because the issue with that is that if you don't go to Gather Round, it'll be on Foxtel. You can't watch it if you don't have Foxtel.
On Saturday night, yeah.
But I'd also think that the grand final rematch for the two competing teams is probably a bit of a money spinner as well, getting the two teams that faced off in the grand final going head-to-head once again.
They're always going to be more ambitious with Gather Round because I think I said this earlier in the week. They wanted a longer deal than 3 years. 3 years to me is enough.
Oh, yeah.
But they wanted a longer deal than that. So they're going to keep pushing the envelope. But you've got Gather Round for another 3 years. There are other states that would love to have Gather Round. So I think that should be enough.
Yeah, where's that spreading of the news up north and things like that? We want to spread the game up north. Where's that gone? Must have been the dollar sign that gets it across the line.
133 693, 41st minute in Vancouver. It is still Australia leading 1.